So we're talking about the correction form. The due date will be under the dotted line back in the back. If you finish them early and are afraid of losing the assignment, we'll show on Monday, because no one should have them done today. Well, not really. I'll show you on Monday where you can start turning them in early in the back. There's a tray for you guys. But beyond that, I give you extra time so that you can reach out to get the help you need. Does that make sense? Okay. Let me talk through a few other things real quick. Besides that, yes, you can get help from anyone and everyone, but let's talk about a couple things. What if, by some miraculous occasion, which actually one or two people did do this time, you get a perfect score and the bonus? Absolutely nothing to correct. Or, if you did miss something, and what happens if you don't turn in the corrections? You just don't do it. You get a 0 on a homework in the portfolio category, which is separate from homework. That's where notes go, that's where corrections go. I think it's so important I make a separate category. You get a 0 on an assignment, and at the end of the semester you don't have this test because probably you'll lose it or something like that. You won't have it to study from. So, corrections are very important. Zeros really hurt when you don't turn in your corrections, but if you don't have it done the day of, get it done the day after. It's half credit, that's a whole lot better than the 0. And once again, I'll keep your test safe so that way they will be there for the end of the semester. Coming back to what I was saying about this column, corrected work, okay? I said you might want to use a colored pen because, do you think on every single problem on this test, I looked at your work on the multiple choice section and figured out your personal mistake? Sometimes, if I could see it, but do you think I literally did that every single student, every single problem on a multiple choice test? I just don't have the time for it. I actually had these graded Monday, but a few people had to make it up, which is why I didn't get it back until later. But coming back, I don't have time for that. If I see a mistake, I try to show you really quickly in my blue pen. But what is this column for? You personally need to figure out what was your process, what was your thought, what was your work on that problem. Why on earth did you choose the answer that you chose? Not that that's a ridiculous thing, just figure out why. Why did I choose the answer I did? What was the mistake? And try to fix it, okay? Now some of you are like, and I understand this, you're like, I guessed, right? Don't you guess every now and then on a math test, on a multiple choice test in any subject? Okay, so what do you put in the corrected work if you guessed? Figure out how to do it right. And maybe there's nothing where you need to say like, oh, this was my mistake in a colored pen. But what if you had something like this? This would have been the, what was the first long answer one? Was it f of 2 plus h? F of something plus h? The difference quotient ones?
That one. It's f of.
Go through that one really quickly. There's a lot of you that missed it. Let's go over that problem. Is that okay? The first long answer one. What was my f of x for the first long answer one?
X squared minus x plus 1.
It's okay, it's okay. Let's do it now. Let's do it now. Maybe you want to just look at your test. Maybe don't do it on the correction paper. Try to go to order, in order on the correction paper. Otherwise the TAs might be confused. Do it on the test. If you want to do it in pencil or in colored pen, let's make sure phones are put away. What's my equation that you're supposed to be using? H plus f? Oh, that makes so much more sense. Thank you. Minus f of a all over h, right? Sorry, I just needed the beginning. You were supposed to plug in and simplify with the difference quotient. So this marker is a little bit rough. Let me get a better black one, and let's keep going. All right. I think this one's better. All right. Help me out real quick. Just a few of you got this perfectly correct. Some of you had the idea and you made a mistake. Okay? What was I supposed to do in starting this problem? Yeah. I have a formula, and I need to figure out, I know the minus, I know the divide, and I know the h. Pause real quick. Did we talk about this type of problem in class?
Yes.
Was it hard in homework? You guys had questions on it. I think I actually did 2 different homework problems the day after the homework was due, because you guys didn't like it. Is this something that you needed to study before the test? Is this something you needed to practice and see if you could do without mistakes before the test? Was it in the review? Yes. So if you're like, I had no clue what to do, you need to ask a serious question about maybe getting you a personal tutor. Okay? Like if you honestly got to the test and said, no clue, what happened to the homework and the notes and the questions on the homework and the review and all these places where you should have caught, this is hard, I need to practice. Now, if you're like, I kind of knew what to do and made a mistake, that's okay, that's okay. I'm just trying to help you guys think through success in this class, and I can't individually counsel every single one of you during a class period. Does that make sense? But I can throw out little tidbits that have been helpful or useful for students in the past. And I'm just saying, if you're like, I had no clue, you might need a personal tutor, okay? But feel free to come talk to me if you're like, oh, how does that work? And my parents don't want me to get a personal tutor. We can talk through that, see what we can do. Let's come back here. I need to fill in f of 8 plus h, and I need to fill in f of 8. Some of you, it was too hard to do it all at once, so we could have come up to the side like I did in class. So one thing I needed to find was f of 8 plus h, and one thing I need to find is f of 8. You guys see what I'm doing? Okay. This is called function notation, right? Not f times f of. Okay. Do you remember how I talked about, and I'll get a different color because it helps with some of you? Ooh, it's a scented apple one. Anyway, those scent markers. Coming back. Dead. So, okay, another one. Sorry, BC last year hit all the ones that they liked back here. They didn't want the other classes using them. Okay. Do you remember how there's input places in a formula that I need to plug into? What am I plugging into now? I'm plugging in 8 plus h, but where am I plugging them into? The equation. I need somebody squared minus somebody plus 1. True?
Yes.
Okay. And who's going in now? Not x. Who's going in? 8 plus h. And 8 plus h. Do you remember what I was talking about? I was talking about you, if you were able to attempt the problem, showing the corrected work. Let's say you got all the way to here. Some of you need your colored pen close because you made 1 or 2 super common mistakes. And if I saw it, I tried to identify it, and I would have said either you killed, or you killed, or just a couple of you also killed. The puppy is killed when you don't foil. This puppy's dying. This is bad work. This is the wrong answer, right? You don't square a binomial by square in the first and square in the second. You square a binomial by, I'm going to write it out, because a lot of you, the shortcut you learned in Algebra 1 didn't stick, and that's okay, there's another way. 8 plus h times 8 plus h. That's one mistake you might have made if you said 64 plus h squared. Yay! Dead. This one. You could have killed a seal if. This is wrong. Poor little seal died. Animal activists would come after you. Not really, but I would. What did not occur?
Distribute.
The negative was not distributed. Where's the negative? Where does it go? Some of you need to write this and get your colored pen and make a big deal about what you forgot to do. Does that make sense? For your purposes before the final to be like, oh, this is one of my weaknesses. Identify it, work on it. How do I distribute the negative? To the 8 and to the h. But kiddos, here's what I need you to see. If you made this mistake on the test, you probably made it at least once in the homework. And if you corrected that in pen when we went over homework, shouldn't that have been something that you studied? Does that make sense? Doesn't mean that you're perfect, doesn't mean that you'll never make the mistake again if you correct it, but I'm trying to let you guys see, if you correct something in your homework, it could happen again later and bite you in the butt if you don't work on it. Okay? Now, foiling this, hopefully we know how to foil. We have 64, outer is 8h, inner is 8h, last is h squared, minus 8 minus h plus 1. I'm finding this guy, right? Now what's our job? Combine whatever you can, right? So I have it as 64 minus 8, Some of you didn't have your calculator, I realize that, but this is subtraction. I'm trying to prepare you for college math professors, where in order to get your college degree, you have to get through a college algebra class if you're not able to get past a certain math placement. A lot of college professors say calculators make you weak, you'll never be able to use it in class. I let you use it quite a bit. I just have to prepare you for the real work, okay? So if you didn't know how to do 64 minus 8, could you literally do 64? 63, 62, 61, 60, 59, 58, 57, 56. I took away 8, 56. Could you do that if worst comes to worst?
Yes.
Don't pretend like you're weak and you can't do it. You can. I don't care if you use fingers. There's actually studies that say kids that learn how to count on fingers are smarter and understand math more than ones that didn't. Totally opposite what you've probably ever heard. Anyway, you can use your fingers. Can you set up a 2-column subtraction and say, ha-ha, you're not going to get me today? Yes. And some of you are like, I didn't have time on this one. That's part of the reason I'm making sure corrections get you half points back. Because I was gone on jury duty, we answered a couple questions before the test, we were a little stretched on time. That's part of the reason you're getting points back on corrections. But take the time in corrections that you could have used or needed to use, okay? Long story short, that's going to be 56 plus 1 is 57. Okay. 8H and 8H, 16H minus 1, 15H. Positive 15H. Then I have plus H squared. Do we have F of 8 plus H? Yes, we do. I have the first piece. What's my second piece that's missing? F of 8. How do I do F of 8? Everybody gets an 8. I'm going to have 8 squared minus 8 plus 1. If you guys notice, if you're quick at mental math, 64 minus 8 plus 1 is what we just did. I have my F of 8. What's the name of the game? Simplify. Some of you can already see what happens to a positive 57 minus a 57. It cancels out. If you don't like the parentheses, you can think of multiplying by a positive 1. It doesn't change anything. So I have 57 plus 15h plus h squared minus 57. The 57s cancel. What do you notice about pause? Some of you killed a kitten right about now and said, hey, an h and an h, I'm just going to take them out. You didn't factor first. Always have to factor before reducing with polynomials. Is there something in common? Pull it out. I get 15 plus h remaining. Now that you have factors, now you are allowed to reduce the h. Properly without killing a poor little kitten. Factoring makes it legal. Now we can say, the final answer should have been that question was worth quite a few points. The multiple choice were worth 2. I think that question was worth 4. So if you don't show me any work or nothing correct, nothing that was getting you towards an answer, then I took off 4 points. But if you got 3 points, you did something right. 2 points, you did other things right. If you only got off 1 point, oh, you were so close. Does that make sense? Okay. But why did I do this problem? A lot of you missed something. Minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4. That's one reason. A second reason, what was I talking about? This column, corrected work. What's supposed to go in this column for this problem? That. Now, did all of you need to show all of this work? No. Some of you can do this faster, and that's okay. But for those of you that are like, yeah, you need to slow it down. You need to show all the work. But I was also talking about, can you do some corrections in a colored pen if it's a mistake that you keep making over and over? Yes. So, Michael, long story short, use a pencil. But every now and then a colored pen might be a good idea after this one. If you notice, like, this is a weakness. Because then you can also look at it for any tests in the future that build off of it, especially the final. You can look back and say, ooh, look at that color. Oh, that's a weakness. I gotta make sure I have that. Okay? All right, cool kids. What's the very last column? Explanation of correction or explanation of error. What does that mean? If you tried it and didn't quite get to the answer, this is you telling me, now don't tell me I killed a seal, I'm telling you that. Tell me I didn't distribute my negative. I didn't remember to pull. I didn't plug in to the function properly. Some of you messed up right here. You were thinking times or you were putting X's, I don't know. Something happened where you didn't plug into the function correctly. Some of you can honestly say I ran out of time. On this one, some of you can honestly say, what was the explanation? I ran out of time. Others of you on this one, well, let's just put it this way. What do you think a lot of kids eventually on corrections start doing in this column? I didn't know, I forgot. That's not good. Because that's you, that's a cop-out. If you honestly forgot how to do this, don't just say, I forgot. Say, I forgot how to plug into the difference quotient. Does that make sense? That's what you forgot. You didn't just forget. You didn't forget there was a, well, maybe you forgot there was a math test. You didn't just forget all of Precalc and everything that you ever possibly saw this entire year in these last 4 weeks, 3 weeks, however long we've been doing this. What did you forget? I forgot how to plug into the difference quotient. I don't like, I don't know, and I don't like I forgot. And if I see them, I'll probably just say, well, that doesn't count as filling out that column. Real quick, for you guys know grading on corrections. Any question that you missed on the test that you don't do a correction for is worth minus 1 point out of 10. So it's minus 10%. You're like, what if I miss 15? Well, you'll just get a 0. Do the corrections. Do the corrections. Every problem that you missed on the test is worth minus 1 if you skip it, if you don't do it, out of 10. And any column that you choose not to fill out, and either of these will be minus a half point, and then if you just don't fill out any of those, every few will be minus a half point. So just do the corrections, do them correctly, and take the time you need. Come and ask help from anybody that you need to ask help from. I'm in here every day after school, please, except for the day I was in jury duty, which happened to be the day before your test. I apologize, that happened, it was out of my hands. But usually I'm in here. I don't bite. I want to help you succeed, but you have to come help me do that. And if I can't offer you the help that I think you need, I'll try to support you in talking to your parents and try to talk through what kind of help I can give you. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions on corrections? I know we have a few. Let me take them real quick. Yeah.
Do we have to correct our bonus question?
Yes. Yes.
So what if we got more than 8 wrong? Can we like put more than one problem in the...
Yeah, what I was saying is that if the problem is small, like if you already see that you're going to need a lot of space, you can go ahead and cut those lines in half, or remember I have this huge stack, grab that extra paper, or print out from online if you're at home and realize it too. Yeah. Lainey. Oh, I do have yours in the back. Thank you.
Yeah, and another question.
Yeah.
May I use the restroom?
Yes, after I get to your test. All right, kiddos. Let's go ahead and put away corrections. Thank you for letting me take the time that was necessary to get you guys kind of caught up. Please, if you have any other personal questions about your test, about the grading, I don't mind. I'm not scared of you guys coming and asking as long as it's in a respectful manner. I will respect your question as you respect me as a teacher, but I want to hear it. I want to hear what you think about how you did. Lainey and Vicki, let me get you both your tests and correction papers.
Oh, I have those.
Oh, you already have a correction paper? And Vicki, do you have a correction paper? Okay. All right, put away tests, put away correction papers. Lainey, you can go ahead and go with that.
All right.
All right. Yes, you're giving out your notes. Thank you, Kathy. We're finishing section 1.8. That's goal number 2. Goal number 1 was test corrections. Goal number 2. Goal number 2 is section 1.8. I hope you hear my heart when I'm talking about corrections, and that I don't want anyone to feel like if you haven't gotten it by now, you're lost cause. That's not at all how I teach. And I hope from even just the beginning, I asked for your commitment, but then what was number 2?
Be real.
Be real. I never, hopefully, ever try to display to you guys that I'm perfect and I have it all together, because, man, I know the gospel, and the gospel shows me my heart. I'm not perfect, I don't have it all together. But in order to grow, I need to be honest with the Lord and with myself about that. So let's apply that to math, not just the Christian walk. In math, in order to grow and in order to improve, what do I need you to be? To be real with me and with yourself, and even maybe with your friends. And so when you come to a test like this, I want you to look at it and be like, failure, forget this, throw in the towel, I'm done. No, if you're committed and if you want to be here and if you want to succeed in this class, what are corrections for? Specifically this one, you're getting points back. What are corrections for? To help you, right? To help you learn from your mistakes and hopefully help you in future tests be like, what could I have done? And if you don't know, that's why I want to have that conversation with you. What could you have done? What didn't you do? But then maybe it's even just like, man, I make a lot of dumb mistakes. It happens. The calculus kids, man, whew, they're doing some crazy calculus problem and they're like, I can't add, this stinks. And they can add, they're too focused on other things. They're not going slow enough, they're not being careful enough. I want to help you identify your weaknesses so that you don't end up not able to get your college degree because you can't get through a college algebra class again. Or maybe you're like, you know what, I'm kind of interested in the medical field, or I'm kind of interested in computer programming, or I'm kind of interested in engineering, sounds kind of cool. Or I want to be a financial advisor, because that pays a lot of money. But you're going to have to make it through some math classes first. So I'm trying to help you have those options open to you if that's something that you're kind of wanting to do, wanting to be available. I don't want your doors to close on you because you have some weaknesses that you weren't willing to work through. So please hear my heart in the sense of I want to help. I want to help. And if there's a way that I can, please just come. Don't be scared of my room. Don't be scared of the kids in it. To be honest, after school lately, half the kids that are in here aren't even my kids. I don't even know where they come from. They just come in here. I'm like, who are you? Okay, hi. But just come talk to me and we'll talk about math, we'll talk about your grade, we'll talk about your life goals, and we'll try to figure out what's best, okay? Okay. Corrections, though, can you get points back on this test? Praise the Lord, so let's do that, yeah? Okay. All right, cool kids, let's get out of corrections, let's get back to the topic at hand, which is section 1.8. The nice thing is, this section starts off super easy in the math, super hard in the notation. Super easy in the math, super hard in the notation. But we like the easy in the math part, right? Yes. Okay, it starts off super easy in the math, super hard in the notation. Meaning, this stuff, this side is really tricky for your brain to figure out. Which is why I'm having you write what it means. Which is why I'm having you write what it means. In any subject, you're going to hear words, you're going to hear phrases, you're going to hear concepts that you have no clue until the teacher teaches you. Same thing here. Naturally, your brains are not going to understand necessarily quickly what these 4 things mean. And we're going to see one more. There's really just 5 things that I want you to help you figure out in this section. 5 things, that's it. And 4 of them are on this page. The harder ones on another page. When you see these 4 things, I want you guys to think what the formula shows. If you see f plus g, what did we write yesterday? Of x. Whenever you see of x, I need you to think plugging in, right? What did I say up here for this one? F of a plus h. What did you need to think of? Plugging in, right? So when you see f plus g of x, you have to teach your brain to read the of. It means, oh, take f of x plus g of x. That's it. Take the 2 separate ones, put them together with addition. When you see f minus g of x, take the f of x, take the g of x, and subtract them. There's no multiplication. None. Whatsoever. Until this one. There's multiplication. F times g of x. Take f of x times g of x. And then there's division. Let's practice that. Let's practice that. In your problem, you're going to be given an f. And you're going to be given a g. Okay? You're given 2 separate functions, 2 separate relationships between them. And if they want you to find this, don't just guess. Study. Have your notes nearby and say, who is that? Can you guys help me? Who is f plus g of x? What do the notes say? Can you give you a second to get down the exam? And for those of you guys that write it down, go ahead and plug it in, but not to that side. To that side. Plug it in, but not to the left side, to the right side. So what are we going to substitute for f? Who is he? F of x is 2x plus 1. If you want to put parentheses, you can. If you want to put parentheses, you can. Hang in there. See, now it got warmer. Everyone's falling asleep. Struggle. Guess we talked too much about life. Didn't do enough math. 2x plus 1 plus g. Who's g?
X squared plus 2.
Some of you are like, why are you putting parentheses? That's dumb. Well, if it was a minus, I don't want to be throwing a seal, right? It's not a minus. But it's always good to be putting things in parentheses. But the nice thing is, to get rid of the parentheses, all we do is figure out any constant in front, which is an understood one, and multiply it in. Does it change 2x plus 1 if you multiply both by a positive 1? Yeah. Does anything change if I multiply a positive 1 into all of those guys? No. If you get really good at it, you're like, oh, forget it. If I'm adding, who needs parentheses anyway? But if I'm subtracting, it's crucial. After you put the two functions together, you ask yourself the question, are there like terms? If there aren't, just leave it and box it, you're done. If there are, all right, combine. So I have 2x plus 2x is 1 minus 1? Well, forget that, he's gone. And then I just have x squared. Is that an answer? Yes. What's probably the better way of writing it? Descending order. With the x squared first. But technically they mean the same thing. So what if I was to give you another example? Do you guys have this one down though? Okay. So what if I was going to give you another example? What if I was to give you something like f of x is equal to 3 square root of 1 plus x, and g of x is equal to 2x squared. And I wanted you to find, I'm writing it as like a 2-column proof, sorry, but it's just because I'm too lazy to make a sentence out of it. Is that okay? You're just doing the math. Find I don't know if I've actually said this in this class. Just because I'm right-handed, I am at this side of the board. So for Ruth and Allie especially, if you need to, you can always look at the computer screen if I'm blocking your vision too much. I try to move back and forth. All right, kiddos. Our goal, f minus g of x. Help your brain out. What do the notes say? What does that mean? So what am I going to do? Yeah, plug it in. Who is that? Take his function, plug him in. Minus, who is g? Ask yourself the question. Any like terms? These guys are both trapped under a square root. They're stuck. There's no other square terms. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun. Nothing else to do. Just put the minus and be done. Now, is there another way of writing that? Yes. Does anybody know? Because usually the square roots go at the end of a problem, because if there's stuff after it, it gets confusing. Is the square root keep going, or is it stuck? How would I put this in front? Good. The negative. Whenever you subtract, you add a negative. This guy is the negative. He needs to have the negative come with him. This guy was naturally a positive. Just double checking that made sense to you. That's another common math thing, right? lost someone. Michael?
For the first problem, the example when it said evaluate the sum of x equals 3, so we would just plug in 3.
Oh, thanks. I was too focused on the equation. Good reading of directions. That's one of the reasons I have you guys write it, so you don't miss something like that. So we did evaluate the sum, but what did we forget to do? What did I forget to do? So real quick, can I show you the notation of what that looks like? It could look like f plus g of 3. The problem could look like that. The problem could look like that. And what that would mean is not times 3, it would mean f of 3 plus g of 3, which we've already done f plus g, so all we have to do is plug in 3. We could have also plugged in 3, and then added. That would work as well. But I can go ahead and just say it's going to be 3 squared plus 4 times 3. 9 plus 12, 21. We could have plugged in 3 at the beginning, or we could plug in 3 at the end. But I also just wanted to let you guys know this notation. This is where it gets really tricky because your brains are going to say, oh, times 3. It's a struggle. Sometimes our brains want to choose one thing, and it's not the right way. Ooh, my lesson in that, we gotta keep going. Okay. Yeah, we can do this. What if I give you f of x equals? Let's see, parentheses, it turned into an F. This is just an illustration that when you do divide, a domain problem can come up. First of all, kiddos, according to the notation, what am I doing when it asks for f over g of x? Take f, take g, and divide it, right? So I have 3x squared plus 2x. Careful, I gave you this on purpose. I don't want you to kill kittens. Could you simplify? You have to factor first. You can't simplify the way it's written. But technically, really quickly, do we have a domain problem right now?
Yes.
Yeah, the denominator is not allowed to be what? What would make the denominator 0? Yeah, if x is 0, I'm in trouble. So we could go ahead and say domain 5x cannot equal 0. Divide both sides by 5, x cannot equal 0. So when they ask for the domain, just because of that division, I have to say x cannot be 0. However, I could go on, after I do that step, I could go on to simplify. What can I factor in the numerator? Factor out an x. I have 3x plus 2. What do I have in the denominator? 5 and an x. What can reduce? The x's. So could I rewrite this as 3x plus 2 over 5? Yes, and for just a few of you, maybe you could also see why this would be 1/5 3x plus 2, or 3/5 x plus 2/5. Anyway, that one's fine. I was just showing you how it's really just a line with an mx and a b.
So there'd be 2 answers for this, the domain and the...
Right, because it says and state the domain, find and state. Does that make sense? Okay, all of those were linear combinations. I said there were 5 things to learn in this lesson. You've learned, kind of, practiced 4 of them. So what's the 5th, and why on earth does he have his own page? Compositions of functions. We go into English, the difference between comprised and composed. Anyway, compositions, see it in English, you see it in music, and see it in other places as well. Composition is usually some sort of work of art or literature that has been put together by someone. We're putting together math. We're just putting together functions. And the wording is going to be f of g of x. This can also be seen as, there is another notation for this, f with a little o and g. Fog. Maybe has anybody ever learned it that way? Fog? I don't think it's not a thing anymore. It's not f times. It's not f times. The dot is hollow, not solid. It's not f times, it's f of. And I want you guys, if you're like a starred colored pen kind of person, to show what's important in your notes, this is the one that we're going to use. Because this one shows I take f and I plug in g to f. This one's the notation, but this is what it means. I'm taking g and plugging into f. There's a little note about the domains. The domains are probably not going to get to talk about until Monday. But I do want to make sure that you know what a composition is. Nice thing is, kiddos, we are right here at the end. We're just missing decomposing. Ooh, that's fun. In math, we have decomposing, like science, we have decomposing bodies. They're similar, we'll have to learn about how on Monday. But, pause. What's the composition? I'm going to do 1, maybe 2. For letter A. F of G of X. Using the formula, and according to what I showed, G needs to go into F where there's a spot open. Who is F? F is somebody plus 2, right? Somebody plus 2, but question, if somebody changed, who am I putting in? So it's easy as that. Then you simplify. Distribute that 1, you have 4 minus x squared plus 2. Can I combine the 4 and the 2? Yeah. 6 minus x squared is one way of writing that. Or negative x squared plus 6 would also be appropriate. What's going to change when I get to something like letter C? Oh, come on, buddy. Letter C says G of F of negative 2, which in the notation, according to my notes, what's going on now? Who's going into G? F of negative 2, but pause. Ooh, who's going into F? Negative 2. Pause. So negative 2 needs to go into F first, and then F needs to go into G, which is why I use G's formula, F minus somebody squared, but I'm putting negative 2 into F. I'm going to finish and box it, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Homework, you can do almost everything except for something called decomposing. You can skip the decomposition one. Bye, guys. See you guys.
Yo juego que son parte juego.